The cafe was busy as usual, the faint hum of conversation mixed with the clinking of coffee cups. I was sitting at my usual spot, staring at the screen of my laptop, trying to work. Then my phone buzzed, breaking my focus. I glanced at it, a message from Mia. I hadn't heard from her in a few days. That wasn't unusual, though. Mia had been obsessed with caving for months now. It started out as a casual hobby, a weekend adventure here and there. But recently, it had consumed her. She would disappear into the mountains for hours, sometimes days, exploring deep, uncharted caves. The message from Mia was short, but it sent a chill down my spine. I found it. You won't believe this place. It's incredible. I stared at the screen. My heart started to race. I knew where she was. One of the caves she'd been exploring in the north. One of the more dangerous ones. The cave systems up there weren't just tricky. They were deadly. People had gone in and never come back. I tried not to panic. This wasn't the first time she'd been down there, and I knew she wouldn't be dumb about it. But the feeling in my gut wouldn't go away. I couldn't help but think of the stories. The people who got stuck, lost, buried under tons of rock, swallowed by the earth. Stay safe, Mia. You know the risks. I sent the message and waited. Hours passed. No reply. It was getting late now. I tried to focus on my work, but something kept nagging at me. The silence, the anxiety crept in. It had been a while since I heard from her, and this time, it didn't feel right. The minutes stretched on. Finally, my phone buzzed again. Mia's message. I'm deep in now. It's different. So quiet. I can feel the mountain breathing. My stomach twisted. Feel the mountain breathing? That didn't sound like Mia. She'd always been passionate about caving, but now her messages felt off. I grabbed my jacket and headed to my car. I wasn't going to wait around any longer. Something was wrong. I could feel it in my bones. The darkness had already crept in, and the drive up to the caves would take hours, but I had to go. I arrived at the cave entrance just after midnight. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating. The dark expanse before me was unsettling. The entrance loomed like a mouth waiting to swallow me whole. I stood there for a moment, staring into the blackness. The air was damp and thick with the smell of earth. My head buzzed as I pulled my flashlight from my bag. As I stepped forward, the tunnel seemed to grow tighter, the walls pressing in. I called Mia's name, but only my voice echoed back. Mia! Nothing. I moved deeper into the cave, my steps careful and measured. I had to find her. The flashlight beam flickered, and for a moment I thought I saw something in the distance. A faint glow. Mia? I rushed toward it, but the light wasn't coming from the way I thought. It wasn't her flashlight. It was a dim, eerie glow coming from the cave walls themselves, flickering like the remnants of some ancient, forgotten fire. Then I heard her voice. Jace. It's so much more than I thought. The words came out raspy, far too slow, as if they were dragging themselves from deep inside her. I froze. Mia, I called again, my voice trembling now. She stepped out from behind a large rock, but it wasn't the Mia I knew. Her face was pale, almost gray, streaked with dirt, her eyes wide but distant. She didn't blink. She didn't move. Her skin looked like it was stretched too thin over her bones. Mia, what's happening? What's wrong? I stepped closer, but something told me to stop. She didn't answer right away. Instead, her head tilted slightly, as if listening to something that I couldn't hear. "It's different down here," she whispered, her voice hollow. "Jace, the mountain is alive. You have to feel it. You have to understand it." I took another step, my heart pounding in my chest. "What are you talking about? You're scaring me. This isn't you." She didn't respond immediately. She just stared at me, her gaze distant, unfocused. Then, almost too calmly, she said, "I'm not coming back, Jace." Her voice shook the ground beneath me, and before I could react, she moved. Not like herself, but like something that was no longer human. Her movements were jerky, like a puppet, controlled by strings. I stepped back, my mind racing. "Mia, stop." But she just kept moving deeper into the cave, further from the light. And then I heard it, the rumble, low, deep, as if the entire mountain was groaning. "Mia!" I shouted, but my voice barely carried in the crushing silence. She was gone. I couldn't stay there any longer. Something inside me told me to run. I turned and bolted, my footsteps echoing through the narrow tunnel. The walls pressed in tighter now, the space around me constricting. The light ahead, the exit, was so far away. I ran faster, but the tunnel seemed to stretch further than it should have. And then I heard it. Behind me, growing closer, the sound of something following, something not human. I reached the entrance of the cave, gasping for air. I stumbled out into the night, my chest burning. The cold air hit me, and for a moment, I thought I was safe. But as I turned back, I saw it, the cave entrance. It was different now, somehow. The rocks shifted, the shadows twisted, and Mia's figure, no, something in her shape, stood at the mouth of the cave, watching me. Her eyes were no longer human. She raised a hand slowly, beckoning. "You can't leave, Jace. Come with me. You need to see it too. You need to understand." I took a step back, fear gripping me, but before I could turn to run, she whispered one last thing. "We're all part of it now. There's no going back." I didn't look again. I couldn't. I ran as fast as I could, the sound of her voice echoing in my head. But I knew. Deep down, I knew. Mia wasn't coming back. And whatever had claimed her, whatever it was that had taken her into the mountain, was still there, waiting for me, for anyone who dared come too close. I thought about the message she sent me earlier that day. It's incredible. And now, I knew. But I didn't want to know anymore. I had to stay away. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was too late. It was only a matter of time before it would come for me.